Hey y'all, in a recent video, I made mention of a dairy-free Alfredo sauce that I made for myself while I made a standard Alfredo for my family. Alfredo sauce is typically a keto-friendly sauce, but I was trying to eat dairy-free at the time, and I was in the test phases for that particular dairy-free recipe. I feel like I've pretty well got it down now, and I'm ready to share that with you today. But first, if you are new here, I am Lindsay. I put a lot of Ketovore-ish content here on my channel. Keto, low carb, it can be considered trim healthy mama friendly. It can be considered a whole swath of things. I put a lot of that kind of content here on my channel. I define Ketovore as high protein, moderate fat, and low carb. I've been eating this way for a while now, and it really suits my season of life. So I tend to talk the most about the Ketovore right now. The Ketovore way of eating. What are we doing here? I don't know. I do a lot of what I eat in a day videos on a Ketovore-ish way of eating. I do some recipe videos, and occasionally I will throw in a grocery haul or, just like a chatty video. I do go live sporadically and unplanned. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, consider checking out my content. Subscribe if you feel like that would add value to your life. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you will try this recipe out and let me know what you think. Okay, before I start making my sauce, I want to get my chicken part of this chicken Alfredo into my air fryer. I do have it preheating, and I am going to season that with salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. That's kind of the 4 basic seasonings I always go to. I make sure to do that on both sides. And I am going to cook this at 350 degrees for 15 minutes. And I will continue to check on it to make sure that it is cooked all the way through at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And if I need to add a little more time, I will do that. With our chicken in the air fryer, let's start on the sauce. In a small saucepan, I'm going to add 1 cup of coconut milk. You can use any milk alternative of your choosing. I'm going to use some of this broth base, that is chicken broth base. You can use chicken bouillon. I used 1 teaspoon of that broth base. And I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of gelatin. I like to sprinkle this over the surface of whatever liquid I'm adding it to allow it to bloom. Now that it has sort of bloomed, I'm going to whisk everything together, and I'm going to set this on a medium heat and allow that to reduce by about 1/3. I forgot to add my seasonings, so here I am adding in that pepper. I did add in a little bit of salt, and I'm whisking that together. The next step is to softly scramble some egg whites. I have 3/4 of a cup of liquid egg whites that I am putting onto a low-medium heat in my skillet here. I am going to keep moving these egg whites to make sure that they get cooked through without overcooking and getting any of that crustiness. You almost always will wind up with a little bit of crustiness, but my goal here is to reduce that as much as possible. As my egg whites are getting close to the end, I want to make sure to turn that heat off and allow the residual heat to finish cooking them the rest of the way. I am going to use my immersion blender to create my sauce. Feel free to use whatever blender you have access to. I'm going to use this 4-cup Pyrex measuring cup to blend in. It's nice and deep so it won't splatter as much. I'm going to measure out my coconut milk just to make sure I've reduced it enough, and I do have about 2/3 of a cup, so that's perfect. I'm going to combine everything into that larger Pyrex cup and use my immersion blender to blend things as smooth as I possibly can. At this stage of the game, the sauce is going to be very liquidy, very runny. Everything is still very hot, and the gelatin has not had a chance to kind of do its magic and thicken this sauce. But as it cools, you will see the consistency becomes much more like an Alfredo sauce. With my sauce resting and my chicken still cooking, I am going to pull together some noodles on which to place everything. I will be following Neely's recipe for her carnivore noodles. I will remember to link her video in the iCards above, and she has a printable recipe on her website. I think I will try to get that linked in my description box. Speaking of recipes and printable recipes, this Alfredo sauce recipe is going to be on my website with a printable link down below if following a printed recipe is more your style. So be sure to check out the links in my description box. In making these noodles, I over-blended my egg base, but it'll be fine. It'll all work out. It'll all taste great. I do like to use my bacon grease to sort of gently grease the surface of my skillet here. This is actually a crepe pan, and using that silicone brush allows me to get a nice even thin coat of that bacon fat all over. I did make my crepe a little bit thick to begin with, and I was very impatient in this process, so I have one broken tortilla crepe, whatever you would like to call it, and I'm in the process of tearing my next one. As you can see there, totally torn, but it will be sliced into noodle form shortly. Something I totally forgot to do before cooking my sauce was to add in the garlic powder. That is a key ingredient, and I totally spaced on it, so here I am mixing that in after the fact. It still tastes awesome. My next task is to try to line up all of these egg white crepes into some form of organized mess and slice these into fettuccine noodle-ish sized pieces. It is now time to get everything plated together. My noodles are a little bit warm still, which is a good thing, but that means they're a little bit sticky and I need to pull them apart. Next up is slicing the chicken. This did wind up taking 20 minutes in my air fryer, and it was a perfect 165 degrees Fahrenheit through the middle. Everything is still very juicy without being tough or pink, so it's a success right there. Air fryer for the win. It is now time for the sauce. As you can see here, it has cooled enough to be a very creamy, thick, delicious looking sauce. This is smelling divine. So, so good. I think this is a winner for sure. It's just so easy to have the sauce on hand. It's comfort food all day long and twice on Sundays. And get a little noodle, little faux noodle, a little bit of those carnivore noodles. Say noodles. It's so good. This sauce is so creamy and causes me to not miss Alfredo or dairy at all. I mean, sure, Parmesan adds a lot of flavor, but adding that bouillon powder, or even if you have bouillon cubes or just whatever you have, That just really enhances everything so much, and it doesn't make me miss the Parmesan at all. So this sauce is fantastic, and I really hope that you try it out. I've got nothing to say. I just need to eat more. This is super good. That sauce is just so versatile, in my opinion. Without the garlic, it tastes a lot like gravy for biscuits and gravy. If you crumble up some sausage into it, it's gonna be a sausage gravy, and then you put it over top of your egg white bread if you make it into more of a muffin shape or a biscuit shape, and it's like you've got biscuits and gravy. Not like true traditional Southern biscuits, but very reminiscent, totally loaded with all the protein. I stinking love this. I mean, granted, this is a lot of eggs to consume in one meal, but it does not hurt my feelings at all. If you do eat vegetables and things like that, shredded cabbage makes a fantastic noodle substitute. So you could sort of lighten up the amount of eggs you're eating in one sitting if that's a concern of yours. But for a lean day, a lean dinner, a protein-sparing, modified, fast-friendly dinner, this right here is fantastic. I mean, the only fat in this is the coconut milk. Is that true? I think it is. I don't think everything else has negligible fat. I mean, granted, a chicken breast does have a tiny bit of fat to it, but it's lean enough to be counted as a lean day. This is amazing. I'm gonna go finish this, and I hope to see you in my next video.